Urgent Vikings fan, look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything Vikings. Kevin O'Connell sends Major J.J. McCarthy update. Ahead of NFL draft, no matter the quarterback, the Minnesota Vikings have always seemed to be subject to questions at the position over the past decade. Kirk Cousins never seemed to be the answer. Then it was ludicrous to suggest Sam Darnold could replace him. Now it's J.J. McCarthy, subject to outside conversations that have questioned his age, experience, and physical readiness coming off. Meniscus surgery. The Vikings' flirtation with Aaron Rodgers only fueled the speculation that McCarthy may not be prepared to lead a 14-win team. Head coach Kevin O'Connell has kept a diplomatic position on the matter, maintaining a cursory interest in all options to improve the quarterback room in long-winded filibusters. But at the start of the Vikings' 2025 season program on Monday, April 21st, O'Connell made the Vikings' quarterback future with McCarthy abundantly clear. Offering an update on several players recovering from long-term injuries, O'Connell, unpromoted, cleared McCarthy to enter the off-season program. Full, no limitations, he said, per The Athletic's Alec Lewis. Vikings HC Kevin O'Connell on J.J. McCarthy. Full, no limitations. Alec Lewis, April 21st, 2025. The first phase of the Vikings off-season program is largely classroom and weight room training, but McCarthy, who spent all of last season separate from the team in his recovery program, will be in a position to lead the team. Entering his second NFL off-season program, McCarthy has the inside track for the starting job with no other competition other than Brett Rypien. The Vikings are expected to add a veteran backup, but with options dwindling in free agency, that backup won't be competition for McCarthy, but rather a support system who could start in a pinch. Entering draft week, the Vikings' focus will be on filling out the roster and finding more talent to support McCarthy. Pausing this news, just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Vikes news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. Vikings linked to trade for familiar $180 million QB. The Minnesota Vikings appear to have both their QB of the future as well as their starter in 2025 in second-year signal caller J.J. McCarthy. But they still don't have a backup outside of Brett Rypien, and that isn't likely to remain the case for long. Minnesota needs at least one more QB on the roster heading into training camp, and in all likelihood will add two as the spring progresses into summer, as most squads head into the preseason with 4 passers on the roster. The priority addition, though, is almost certainly going to be an established veteran who can fill in for McCarthy in a pinch, while also offering him some guidance as he navigates an NFL regular season for the first time. Adam Schefter of ESPN reported on Monday, April 21st, that former Vikings starter Kirk Cousins is very much in the mix to assume that role as the Atlanta Falcons look to deal their former starter, to whom they pledged $180 million over 4 years, just last offseason, $100 million guaranteed. Atlanta has asked for any acquiring team to pay $20 million of the $37, $5 million worth of guarantees left on Cousins' contract. To date, no team has been willing to do that, and no team is expected to be willing to. There is a feeling around the league that a team, whether it is the Vikings or Steelers, might be willing to pay down roughly $10 million. How much any team would be willing to pay also would influence the compensation it gives up. The higher the payment, the lower the draft compensation. The lower the payment, the higher the draft compensation. Minnesota only owns 4 picks in the upcoming draft as of Monday, which may position them better than Pittsburgh in a deal for Cousins, as the Vikings would have to pay more of his salary based on Schefter's suggested trade paradigm. However, Cousins is looking for a chance to start in his age 37 season, and that will only happen in Minnesota if McCarthy falls flat in training camp and/or suffers another injury like the knee issue that robbed him of his entire rookie campaign. That Cousins holds a not-raid clause makes those circumstances and the QB's desires vastly more relevant to any potential deal than they would be otherwise. Vikings expected to lead way with high-value targets in free agency. The Minnesota Vikings spent more money in free agency than all but one other NFL team this offseason at $264, $5 million per spot rack. Despite a highly regarded haul, the Vikings are expected to remain active in the next wave of free agency activity. That will begin on April 26th, right after the 2025 draft concludes, as teams make their bids for priority undrafted free agents. ESPN's Adam Schefter expects the Vikings to be among that group. One source predicted this is going to be one of the most talented lists of priority free agent PFAs in recent years. The class is filled with players who won't get drafted but have draftable grades on them. It's two COVID classes and underclassmen combined together, Schefter wrote on April 21st. The Vikings have only 4 picks, so they would figure to sign as many of these players as they could. The Vikings' 4 picks are a league low, leading to speculation about their free agency plans. The NFL's oldest team in 2024 has the league's fewest resources to get younger. In 2025, ESPN's Kevin Seifert wrote on April 19th, unless they acquire additional picks via trade, they will become the 20th team to select 4 or fewer players since the draft moved to 7 rounds in 1994, according to ESPN research. 98% of teams have made more picks during that 30-year span. Vikings predicted to lead way in priority undrafted free agent signings over the cap. Projected the Vikings and Jacksonville Jaguars will tie for the most UDFAs after the draft ends, with the Baltimore Ravens next up at 20 projected signings. 4. Jacksonville and Baltimore. This is clearly due to having the fewest players under contract as of now. Over the Cap's Nick Corte wrote on April 21st. For Minnesota, it's because they currently possess the fewest draft picks in the league at only 4. It's clear that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah looks set to build rookie depth among the undrafted ranks this season. Because draft day trades and other transactions will happen, these numbers will not be the final result. They may, however, give some hints as to what teams could do during and immediately after the draft. Teams with a high-numbered UDFA potential could lower this number by acquiring more picks in this draft, either by trading down or trading away future picks, Corte wrote. Teams with a low-numbered UDFA potential could raise this number by trading up in this draft or defer some picks into future drafts via trades to lower the number of picks they make now. Vikings have found success in free agency after drafts. The Vikings tied the Buffalo Bills with the 7th fewest games logged by undrafted players in 2024 per statehead. They signed 17 players after the draft per Pro Football Focus, in May. 2024. The Vikings had 18 former undrafted free agents record a stat in a regular season game in 2024. 10 of them are under contract for 2025, including Pro Bowlers Andrew DePaula and C.J. Ham. Ivan Pace, a UDFA in 2023, has started 21 of 28 games played in the NFL. 2024 UDFA linebackers Bo Richter and Gabriel Murphy both flashed as rookies, while classmate Dwight McLaughlin could contend for a starting spot at cornerback. Vikings received telling grade for offseason. Before NFL draft, the Minnesota Vikings kept busy this offseason as they push all their chips in for a Super Bowl title in 2025. This offseason, Minnesota has spent just under $300 million on free agents. The Vikings signed key players like defensive linemen Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, as well as cornerbacks Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah, and offensive linemen Will Freeze and Ryan Kelly. They also resigned contributors from last year's team, with Aaron Jones, Byron Murphy Jr., and Harrison Smith. Were the moves made enough to warrant a successful offseason for the Vikings? Bleacher Report NFL writer Gary Davenport graded all 32 NFL teams offseason before the 2025 NFL Draft on Thursday. Davenport gave the Vikings an average grade of B, with questions surrounding the quarterback room and parts of the defense. It has been a wild offseason in the Twin Cities. The headline, of course, was the departure of quarterback Sam Darnold after his breakout season. It's J.J. McCarthy's show now. The offensive line in front of McCarthy saw a shakeup as well. Ryan Kelly is an upgrade at center, and Will Freeze is an improvement beside him at guard. But Minnesota watched tackle Cam Robinson bolt for the Houston Texans. After spending big bucks on both Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, the Vikings have a pair of imposing defensive tackles and maybe one of the best defensive lines in the league. But a secondary that was the team's weakest link defensively remains an issue. Cornerback Byron Murphy was retained, but the loss of up-and-coming safety Cameron Bynum stings. How the team's young quarterback and pass defense fares in 2025 will determine whether the Vikings can build on last year's 14-win season. But letting Darnold walk afforded the team resources to ensure that the Vikings didn't spring any major leaks elsewhere this offseason. The good news for Minnesota is that they could retain Smith for at least another year and have time to develop another safety to be his successor. Many draft experts believe that if the Vikings don't trade down in the first round, they will select a safety at their 24th overall pick. Minnesota only had 4 picks in this year's NFL draft, so the franchise was forced to spend big bucks on free agents to make up for the lack of draft assets. It will be more of a veteran team surrounding the young McCarthy, but the lack of youth could hurt the Vikings come next offseason. For now, Minnesota seems to be set up for success with the talent brought in, with the hope that outweighs the talent that left the team. And now, Vikings fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Vikes. He'll be back any moment with more Vikings news. Skol, Vikings!